So in today's competitive economy, retraining and rewarding talented candidates is just one of the big challenges facing companies. Attracting top talent, reskilling current employees, developing future leaders, and establishing a healthy culture, which we've talked about a lot today, all weigh heavily on all of us, particularly the leaders who are tasked, with staffing in the era of AI and globalization. To share their solutions and their incredibly entertaining stories about the future of talent is Surya Kant, President North America, UK, and Europe of Tata Consultancy, Sheila Marcello, founder, chairwoman, and CEO of Care.com, and Dan Rosenzweig, the Chief Executive Officer of Chegg. Please join me on stage. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
While you're getting settled, I wanted to tell you a quick story from Brainstorm Tech this year. The CTO of Walmart Labs, still fairly new in his role, was looking to execute on a massive new digital change, and we were talking about that and the rapid pace of change, and he mentions to the audience that things were not going as well as he had hoped, and he started calling around to some of his peers at other companies, and they told him that he could expect to lose 70% of his executives. And it was one of those magical moments when you realize that you've lost the entire audience, that nobody wanted to listen to anything else that anybody else on the panel had said, because 70% is this huge number. So what was it about the executives who were excellent on Monday who were no longer relevant and excellent on Thursday? So here's what we know. Different skills will be needed in a new age of automation and AI to combat inequality in a broader world, and to get people into the workforce around the world. We're going to need an entirely new way to train people, and we also need to make sure that the people who were excellent on Monday get to stick around for the rest of their careers if they so choose, and nobody is shovel ready anymore. And these are the kinds of big topics that we're all worried about, and these are the kinds of answers and solutions I'm hoping that you'll be able to provide today. Sorry, can we start with you? Because I know that you are hiring and developing at a massive scale around the world. What are some of the issues that you're seeing, and what are some of the breakthroughs that you're having?
So thank you for inviting me over here. Tata Consultancy Services is a 400,000 people strong company, and we are spread all over the world. So we have our own requirements, our own opportunities and challenges when it comes to skilling and reskilling our people, because in the consulting world, you have to be ahead of your customers, and at the same time, the way the technologies are changing in digital area especially, you have to make sure that you are reskilling your people all the time. So 3 years ago, we started a program within the company to reskill our people. And we needed to come to a new model which is in line with today's technologies, which is anytime, anywhere, any device model, which helps our people gain information wherever they are in the world. And there are these modules which are like if a salesperson just needs to gain knowledge of a concept, quickly definition of something, from that to something which is like 25, 30 minutes of a session on your smartphone, on your iPad. And that has worked very nicely for us. We've been able to train now 264,000. Since we started 2 years ago, 264,000 of our people have been trained out of 400,000 people. And that's how you need to do it. This is one of the models that we have adopted for our own people. Mm-hmm. And there are then other things that we are doing for the community, which I'll be very happy to talk about as we go into session.
All right, let's flag that, and we'll come back to that. Sheila, can we start with some breaking news? I know that you signed Starbucks as a client last week, which is clearly part of a bigger strategy that you have for both the gig economy and your thoughts on the gig economy, and how matching the gig economy with corporate life can benefit everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. Thanks for having me. So I think this combination of the disruption that you talked about as part of that announcement plus this reskilling, and thank you for that, really commendable, because not all companies focus on that. And I think one of our key areas around disruption and innovation is how do we build a care infrastructure to support the gig economy? Certainly many are freelance workers and they're moving in a direction where many of them will be without jobs, and what kind of care support can we continue to provide them? But more importantly as well is that majority, so we have 13 million caregivers on the platform on care.com. They're one of the largest gig economy platforms, right? I call the care industry. And I don't like to use the word gig in describing them because it sounds like it's demeaning the work that they do, which is about respect and dignity, whether it's children or it's seniors.
In my case.
Exactly.
And thank you for your role in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've been very focused around disruption and innovation because on average, caregivers are paid $9 an hour. Golf caddies are paid $17 an hour. So I use that analogy often in carrying golf clubs versus carrying the people that we love. And the disruption that I talk about as we think about this large gig set is, what's their social net? How do we think about that? Because so much of their work is in the freelancing world. They're probably original gig economy. And how do we think about disrupting and providing the kind of innovation? So at care.com, we've been very focused of making sure that we provide them access to healthcare, household payroll so that they're covered with Social Security and Medicare benefits, providing them the first pooled portable benefits platform. So we're trying to find and marrying this set of what we call AI plus HI, and I'm sure a lot of people use that, which is how do you use and leverage technology and still really focus on the human interface and the importance of humanity to make sure that we can, through disruption, really drive inclusion.
So I'm dying to ask you about the reality show. We'll get to that in a second, because I think the reason why it's so wonderful is because you are so wonderful, obviously, but also because it hits to your philosophy of education.
I think we can end the meeting now.
Sit quietly
And if
together.
my daughters are watching this on the live stream, you heard it here.
But could we talk a little bit about how technology has been disrupting the education space, and where are the opportunities in that, and where are people being left behind? Because you're clearly hitting something right.
So I have a different lens on this, and I think everybody has the lens that they bring to life. And so the question is, are we disrupting? I don't think we're disrupting. I think we're realigning the education industry with the person that we think is the most important constituent, which is the student themselves. Yeah. Up to this point, the education industry is an industry like every else, like healthcare industry. It's designed to self-support itself, like government. And so if you ask yourself, who's the education industry for? It should be for the student. However, most students can't afford it. If they graduate at all, it takes them 6 years rather than 4 years. 43% of all students that go on to higher education don't graduate with any degree at all in the United States. If they graduate with about $37,000 in debt on average. And if they don't graduate but they have $9,000 in debt and no degree. The cost of textbooks was insane. The cost of education is insane. Even if you use an ATM, if any of you have kids in college that use an ATM, on average, they take out $10 or $20. They're still being charged $3.50. That's, that's loan shark money. And so everything was designed to sell to the school, to sell the administration, to sell the professors, and to take money from the student. Add all of that up, we now have a situation where there's 44 million Americans that hold $1.5 trillion worth of student debt. That's bigger than credit card debt. And this is all debt that was a student ended up taking on at 18 years old before they understood money. 40% of them are probably technically, legally behind in those payments. So sometimes they work the gig economy not because it's what they want to do, but it's because another form of income. On average, 40% of college students work 30 hours a week or more full-time while they're in school full-time. So our view is we're not disrupting the education industry. We're aligning it with its most valuable, important constituent, the one that's paying for it.
Right.
And so who suffers become the people that are misaligned with the needs of the person that's writing the check. the person that doesn't feel that they should be available to teach, the person that feels like they should charge substantially more than someone can afford, the person that feels like they don't need to align their budgets so that the cost goes down, the person that doesn't think that they need to bring education to the student, but rather forces the student to come to the education. A substantial percentage of community college students go to more than one community college. Why? Because the class is only available when it's available.
Right.
Why isn't it available online? Why isn't it on demand? We can order a car on demand. We can order entertainment on demand. You can order care to your home. And we are a very happy customer of care.com and my company, because people need this to come to them. And so education is one of the few industries. My goodness, even in healthcare, we're now all wearing things that report our health back to somebody else.
Right.
Who that is, I don't know. I mean, but the fact is, education is still the one that has to get programmed for the professors, the administrators, and not the student. And so who suffers is anybody who doesn't align with the fact that the system is not successful.
Right. Well, in your expert view, then, what about the cohort of people who don't have access to even traditional forms of education or forms of financing? What is going to make someone with non-traditional credentials or different life experience attractive to employers? Because it's going to make the difference between someone who is coming from a...
So that's a different question.
It is.
And
it was a new question.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous. But it's a very different question than who suffers, because the question of why does the system allow to persist is some of it is myth. You need this to get this. But when you just see companies like Apple and Google both first announce for the first time that you don't need a degree.
Right.
So it's going to be an alignment. Look, there's room for liberal arts. My daughters are liberal arts majors. I love liberal arts. It's a phenomenal thing. So please, Mom, don't yell at me, because my mom's a public school teacher. But that's a subset of people. The majority of people want to be able to accelerate the path from learning to earning. They want to be able to accelerate the path to financial freedom and not indentured servitude, which is what people in these huge amounts of debt are struggling from over 20 years of time. And so from my perspective, and even for-profit colleges, which were absolutely a ripoff because they had no accountability. However, 3.6 million people were using them. Why? Because of availability, on demand. Most of them were 30-year-old working women who also had children who could not leave their home or their workplace.
Right.
So I think employers, as the curriculum adjusts to be more relevant to jobs of the future, you will see them hiring people. We already do it now. Our company, 40% of our employees were born outside the United States, went to schools that we don't know and never been to,
Right.
but they're capable. So I actually think that's happening now. It helps that we have very low unemployment, because now you need to get everybody in the workforce.
Right.
And so a lot of companies have to retrain, but we're trying to get them to be trained.
Can I build on this?
Sure.
It's interesting, as we think about vocational training, right, and the fact that certainly I value liberal arts, but if we think about, one of what we've observed in the care industry is one of the fastest growing, it's 6x all other jobs, is actually care jobs.
Nursing.
Right? In home health aides, and in
incredible.
senior care, elder care companions, you name it. It is 6x all other jobs. But if you think about it, in the gig economy, if we think of Uber and Lyft, they've got a DMV, right? There's like a training program to teach everybody to drive. We don't have anything like that in the care industry. In fact, we launched the Care Institute as a 501c3 with AARP in Boston Children's Hospital,
Brilliant.
And now we're looking at caregiver training and care and really focus on career pathways and working with community colleges, this thing that you talked about, systems change.
Yeah.
That how can you disrupt within the system and change what we're doing and what we're assuming with regards to education,
Right.
so that we can create more jobs and create career pathways so that immediately
Can I
we're
just
getting
size
them
that?
income.
Just the state of California alone has 2.5 million students in community college. So think about that. There's more students in community college in the United States than there are students, period, in Canada, just to size it.
Yeah.
And it's because they're more vocationally oriented. However, their curriculum still has not been adjusted, nor
not.
have their times of day, nor have their willingness to use online.
Yep.
So I have a
Yes.
different take on this. We did some study and we found that there are 500,000 jobs which are available in the U.S. and in the tech industry, and you have another 220,000 jobs which will be available in Canada, the shortage of people by 2020. And so we ourselves are, like you said, hiring big time. But then how do we create this capacity? So to create this capacity, we started a program called GoIT about 10 years ago, which basically works with high school students in the area of design thinking, in the area of app development, in the area of customer journeys, and encourages them to write apps so that they are not just consumers of technology, but they are also creators of technology. And 94% of the kids who attended these programs have reported that they would like to get into technology careers. This program is now run in 59 cities across North America. We've got really good feedback. So that is one example of how companies like us can really help school boards, administrators, students, and teachers and parents. In Canada here, in Toronto District School Board, they have adopted GoIT as one of the parts of their curriculum across 18 schools that they run, and that has positively helped 6,000 students.
And what have you seen in the marketplace, either on your own or just in the world, that's good for adult learners, people who are in the middle of their career, particularly with the idea that they're planning for skills and an eventuality that we can't quite envision yet?
Yeah, I think, again, the adults have to recognize that where the world is going today in terms of the skills. So we see the computational thinking, which means you must have appreciation of algorithms and appreciation of data. These two combined, you may be doing anything. You may be doing liberal arts, you may be doing botany, you may be training to be a chef. Any course, if you are moving towards that, there is a lot of data that is coming to us through connected devices, through Internet of Things, through other things. And that skill is going to be in great demand. So even for adult learners, I would say, if they gravitate towards these things, that is great. For that, we have a platform which we started in India, where we are offering content, and then people can take those courses and can certify themselves, and then those certificates are accepted by the employer. So that's called ION, and I think that's a step going forward.
Sheila, you were nodding, so I'm going to throw it to you in a second, but I wanted to bring you all in since this is something that impacts all of us. Are there any questions? I'm just going to double check. Hi, Patty.
Patty.
I'm so glad you asked.
You want me to do it now or at the end? Because I wanted to hear what Sheila had to say.
No, go ahead. It's fun.
So most of you may not know what Chegg does, but we now have approximately 1 out of every 2 college kids in the United States on our platform. Approximately by the end of the year, 25% of them will pay us for something. And on the free basis, we reach 30 out of the 36 million high school and college kids in the United States. So we have a really extraordinarily good read on the choices they're making, their educational difficulties, their financial difficulties. So we have a platform now that has gotten a lot bigger than we ever imagined, and the TAM is getting a lot bigger because the number of things that they need to learn, from writing to math to all of those things. So
And a big valuation.
what's that?
And a big valuation.
Not big enough, but but I'm sure we can get Patty to help us with that. But most interestingly to us is this debt issue. So when my generation grew up, we got savings accounts and passbooks and checkbooks, and You had to apply for credit cards and all those things. This generation has no idea how to manage money or what money is or whether it's real, and they're graduating with such massive amounts of debt in the United States. And even in Canada, they take debt, it's just not as much. And they don't know how to manage their finances. So the concept is through a reality show, which is the executive producer is Ashton Kutcher. He believes that he would like to see us create a show that is both entertaining but informative in terms of helping young people understand the implications of the choices that have been made for them or they've already made, and the consequences of compounding those with bad choices in their life as it relates to money. So you've got, I mean, when there's 44 million out of 318 million people who still have college debt, it's 1.5 trillion, it's very scary. So the idea is to make it sort of funny, hard, heartwarming, in sort of three parts about giving each kid, having a CEO come in and teaching you to run your life more objectively, and building your own P&L, building your own balance sheet, and then building your own budget so you can prioritize the choices. And if it works, then we will help educate a lot of people to common situations, because it is the #1 thing that surveying all of our audience that students say they wish they had learned in school that they didn't was personal finance.
I'm just trying to imagine how my life would have turned out if I was, 20 years old and you had swooped in to just teach me the right way to go forward. It just, the mind reels.
We shall find out.
Yes, we shall.
It
Yes,
could
we
suck.
shall. I think there's no chance of that.
Well, it's amazing that we're focused on the financial wellness. So much emphasis is focused around healthcare and certainly how, obesity with these reality shows. So I think it's brilliant to do.
Well, we're going to bring in mental
financial
health, mental wellness,
I think
because,
it's
by the way, the
brilliant.
suicide rates, the anxiety rates, the depression rates of young
Huge.
people, higher than they've ever been, higher than have ever been reported. And so all of these things connect. So all of it is the anxiety of workforce, of debt, of am I skilled properly? Will I be skilled properly? Do I have skills to get me a job? There's later in the career, which a lot of companies are now, what is it, something like $80 billion is spent annually to retrain employees. So there are companies that have recently gone public, plural sites in that category. You asked about other kinds of sites. There's Coursera, Udemy. They're all now around reskilling in the middle of your career.
Right.
But what Sheila's doing is really fascinating, because she's saying you can build a career out of the gig economy. It's not just extra income. It could actually be your primary income, which is a whole new.
And we had a lot of college students who actually work as caregivers. And back to your question around midlife. Part of the reason we did our partnership with AARP is we are the largest paid caregiver platform with 13 million. They have 28 million unpaid caregivers. And so many of them are actually skilled. And if we think about senior care with 10,000 turning 65 every day, that by 2030, it's estimated that there will be more elderly than there will be children, right? We are gonna go face a tsunami. So let me just ask the audience, how many of you have kids? Okay, how many have nieces and nephews? How many have been kids?
How many still are?
Yeah. So part of this is, if you ever wonder, it will impact all our lives. And if you think about it, and I talk a lot about the importance of the care economy and the care infrastructure, we invest in roads and bridges, but we don't think about investing in the supply of care that will actually take care of all of us, that helps care for our children, quality care, that's 90% brain development, helps people get to work, because there's this codependency between care and work. You need to get great care to work, and you need to work to actually pay for great care. And then what drives our budget deficit in this country? It's actually end of life. It's aging in place, because if we don't have great care in the home, that actually drives healthcare costs up because of readmission rates. So all along the way, if we don't invest in our care infrastructure, it impacts society and our overall economy. So we've got to think about this not as a soft issue, not as a gender issue, and not as not will impact me clearly with my question. It will impact all of us, but we need to think about it as in economic terms and not just moral terms.
I do worry that the gig economy is just not going to be right for everybody. Just like I'm not a shovel-ready person. There's plenty of people who just aren't going to be able to find their path forward. And so how are smart employers and leaders thinking about the other pathways forward, especially as AI is going to be replacing some of the basic things that we've been doing? Sir, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so our belief is this, when we look at our own employees and the technology is changing, is that technologies get obsolete, people don't. So people can be retrained, and that is the reason why, rather than letting people go and hiring new people, we always have considered the fact that why not keep training our people, and you also have to ensure that there is that kind of culture in the company that promotes learning, and I think that's something which is very important. The other part that I mentioned to you, where I was saying that why the computational thinking is important, because it's a combination of data plus algorithms, is that if people move towards that, let's say I'm learning music, I'm not doing technology, and people may think in this audience that I'm promoting just IT careers or technology careers, but I'm saying I'm promoting all the careers with the right emphasis of algorithms and data, which is computational thinking. Think about that. If you're learning music, the music score is really a combination of steps, which is algorithm, plus the data, that is the music, that the notes that have to be played. If you're learning to become a chef, recipe is really algorithms plus data. If you are training to be a botanist, if you look at the tree rings, that is really data. And so there are a number of examples, and that's what we are doing. So we teamed up with Discovery Education last year to launch a new program, because we thought that it is very important to really make a big impact. The GoIT program that we had started actually went to about 17,000 people, 17,000 kids so far. The program that we started with Ignite My Future in School actually works with schools to embed this computational thinking inside the curriculum. We have started this with 10 school districts across the country in North America, primarily starting in the US. And what it has done is, the goal that we have taken is that we will go out to 1 million kids and 20,000 teachers, because one of the things which is important in the country, in the US specifically, is that the schools which teach computer science, only 30% of them have teachers who are trained in computer science. So we are also helping them to ensure that they get trained in computational thinking, and then they propagate that. And the initial results have been really super. In the first year itself, we've been able to get to 300,000 kids and about 5,000 teachers. Our goal was to go to 20,000 teachers and 1 million kids in 5 years.
Which is magnificent. I also just want to point out that not everybody has to learn to code. Yeah. Or not everybody's going to be a math genius, and creativity comes in many forms. So the people who wrote brilliant music didn't know they were doing math, but they were. But you don't have to, not everybody has to become a Google employee. The importance of understanding technology is, for most of us, including me, who's not a founder, not a coder, it's a tool to be used. A typewriter was a tool to be used. A pencil was a tool to be used. An abacus, a calculator. Right. They were tools to get the best out of us. And so some people show that creativity in terms of coding or writing algorithms, and some of them do it in terms of writing or marketing or messaging. The fact that you can have data available to you, you have to be able to, if you're a liberal arts major, rhetoric and communication are at the hearts of liberal arts. Today, Town Square is Twitter or it's Facebook. So you have to understand the new tools, but you don't have to know how to build Facebook. Right. But if you're a brilliant analyst of numbers and you can't master a spreadsheet, you're not going to be able to get to the analysis. So all we're proposing to students is that there are about 12 skills that involve technology that you need to know to work at any company, because you're either going to be writing email or you're going to be using Slack, And so we teach them as tools, not as necessarily what their careers are going to be. So I think, I run a tech company. We have 1,000 people. Less than half of them are engineers.
Right.
We have finance people and marketing people and communication people. And so I just want to remind us that we do want to go for the whole brain, and we want to use these as tools to enhance our ability to use our other skills.
Yes, right down here. So I think there's a mic coming. It's coming right to you.
Oh.
Is this a Watson question?
Hi, she asked me to stand up. I'm David Kenny, and I'm from IBM, and I lead Watson, so I'm doing a lot of the AI. The thing about machines is they learn faster than people. So these tools that we're giving to lawyers and accountants and drivers and supply chain people are accelerating at a faster rate than tools in the past.
Yeah.
So how are we going to train people? How do you create jobs where people really have to retrain every 5 years? Because the speed is going to accelerate.
You want to start? You want me to start?
Well, I think mine is much more on a philosophy basis, David, is why aren't we, let's build on these tools, why aren't we as leaders and as business leaders using the tools to actually train people to use that creativity for inclusion purposes? Why not use the power of technology to figure out how do we train faster? I'll give you an example. A good friend of mine, Jake Xu, runs Catalyte. Sold his company for $1 billion in China and decided that he wanted to go find another company to go run. He found a company in Baltimore that had this incredible algorithm that he can take the poorest in really depressed neighborhoods, take this algorithm and come out with an assessment whether they've got the competency to be great code developers that did not need a college degree, right? So he is trying to use the power of AI to actually assess whether or not, even before reskilling, whether the competencies are there to match the skilling. So I think there are plenty of these. Frank at Cognizant's doing something similar, committing $100 million to actually train poor people in poor neighborhoods to take similar algorithms and assessment. So I think, and I challenge an IBM to use the power of Watson and
It's your fault, Kenny.
use that power of that technology. And I really believe that there are things we can do.
So let me give you an
more.
example of that, if I could. Unfortunately, most college-age kids cannot write. And by the time they get to college, nobody thinks it's their job to teach them to write because they've sort of come through the system. We have a piece of software that can read your paper through machine learning, will evaluate it for doing your citations and bibliographies that citations that you need to do. Will identify ones that you should have done and explain why you should have done them so you avoid unnecessary plagiarism by mistake. But will also, because there's only a certain number of grammar rules and sentence structure rules, evaluate all of them and then show you what the correct sentence structure would be. So we're using AI and machine learning to not write the paper, but instead teach them how to write, how to fix their mistakes. And then the next time they write the paper, there's a scorecard that says, last time you made 12 grammatical mistakes, this time you made 4. So they can see their advancement. So I think there are ways to do that.
So Dan, let me ask you to pause. We have a minute left. So final thoughts from the panel, just really succinctly in a sentence or two. What do we need to be thinking about to be sure that underserved or vulnerable demographics survive the big wave of change? I'm going to go right down the panel. Suri, can I start with you?
Yeah. So again, any technology that we bring, any work that we do, it's very important that we think about underserved and underrepresented groups. This is the philosophy of the company that we come from. 50% of the owned company that I run is owned by two trusts. So it is important that using technology, how do we do that? Through mentoring, through coaching, we need to ensure that the technology, the revolution that is there, reaches all people and nobody is left behind.
Sheila.
I think as business leaders, I think we just need to challenge ourselves and use that creativity, innovation, education, and privilege to make sure that, that we believe that innovation without equality is just not enough progress.
And to build on that, I think the way to do that, the tactical way to do it is a combination of these two, which is to recognize that in today's world where people have no time, if they have 2 family members, they're both working, the hours are ridiculous, the commutes are ridiculous, people are living in cities they can't get anywhere, that we've got to bring the capability to the individual on demand, make it personalized, make it adaptive so it actually adapts to the best way that they learn, help them assess, and then make it so that they can learn it on their own with human coaching inside it, but not where they have to take more time to get to and from a location.
Perfect.
And that would be my suggestion.
We have to end it there. That was wonderful. Thank you so much to the panel. Thank you, Story.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sheila. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.